Alright, hey folks, Bati here again. We're going to do another strategy video, a little replay review. This time I am joined by zUnkP. He's been one of our battle poker players for quite a while. He sent me this replay, wanting to review it, get some ideas. So that's what we're going to do. zUnkP, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you, Bot?
I am good, sir. I was actually in the middle of doing one of your replays before, and then you hit me up, and I was like, screw it, let's pause. We'll do this one, and then I'll finish it later. So here we are.
Great. Yep.
I'm just gonna go ahead and hit play. We'll talk about some stuff. If we need to pause, we'll pause it. But for now, we'll just let it run and kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
Good luck, have fun, good stuff, etc., etc. Third position, Protoss 3-3, 6 oracles. I assume we're not super thrilled here.
Oh, I was no, no. I was just gonna check.
Yeah. Like, once we get rolling, this will be a little bit more natural. Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that later. We pick up 23 Ravens. And Pokemon raises 10% of his stack, a little bit of an overbet to the pot. All right, so let's stop for a second. Why do you just call here?
So I just called because, so this is like, Pokemon is like first to act, so this is like a really strong raise theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
So and to me, the strongest hands like that you do that with are like Ghosts and High Templar.
Mm-hmm.
I want to limit my losses if that's what he actually has. But
Okay.
I can see why a raise might be better, like just because Ravens are probably still good anyway. But
Does he specifically only make that big raise with High Templar Ghost, or is that just more of like a general feel for you?
Well, yeah, I kind of think about this in kind of a weird way. I think I don't really look at so much at my opponents. I actually admire kind of like not the GTO style, but something closer to it, because obviously no one knows the GTO style.
Right.
To me, I actually call with Ravens quite a bit. Like this, like I'm happy to take a smaller pot, with some confidence, or
Mm-hmm.
cut my losses if I'm against, like, because that raise is so big too. Like I can't fold, but I really don't. Yeah,
Okay.
I am a bit scared of. Maybe I shouldn't be scared of those kinds of cards, though. I don't know.
So here's my thought process. You're specifically countered right now by 2 units in the game. One big overbet by Pokemon should not necessarily dictate High Templar Ghost, right? There's battle cruisers in there. There's carriers in there. There's probably like Vikings in there, some Thors, maybe some Infestors, maybe not Infestors. Like there's a pretty decent range he could have from just one overbet. The overbet definitely narrows it down some, but not a huge amount.
But it's like in first position too.
It is in first position. It's possible he had a shitty first card and just binked like 8 BCs, and he's trying to make up for lost value.
Card,
yeah, it's the second card. Like, it's entirely possible he just binked like a big capital ship and he's trying to make up for the lost first bet, So what I would personally like to see here is like a raise to 35 all day, for 2 reasons. A raise to 35 all day is going to win you about 75 chips in the pot after you lose 30, so you're going to be up to like 170. Pretty decent profit, right? If you win. If you lose, when you put 35 in the pot, you're still going to be sitting at like, 90? Which is a pretty decent stack. It's not huge. You're giving up about a quarter of your stack early on, but the antes are still so low, you have plenty of time to make that back if it comes to it. So you're setting yourself up for a little bit better early game when you're right, which is going to be most of the time. The few times that you're wrong, you still have a pretty solid chance in this game. You are a little bit behind, but not by that much.
Yeah. I can see this. Yeah, I can see why. Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. See what he shows down with. Yep, there's those battle cruisers. I wonder if he got him first or second. I wonder if I can actually look at that right now. Pokemon. No, it wouldn't matter, because even if you swapped them, it would show swap. Still, though, definitely a good way to start the game. Like, 23 Ravens first hand? Hell yeah. 12 Hellbats, first position. Oh boy. We're excited. So while we have a little downtime, like, do you have any specific reads on anybody at the table here? Like, anything that may come into play, like, later on? Not necessarily, like, from this game that you've learned, but, like, from playing with these players overall.
Yeah, well, again, I don't really think about it that way mostly.
Right. Yeah, sorry.
But I will make some minor adjustments. I think Goldie's known for playing pretty tight with, pretty strong cards like Raven Ghost, High Templar. But again, lately, I think she's been opening up a little bit. I've seen some of those hands. So yeah. I do adjust a little bit on that. I know Pokemon, I think, has the tendency to raise pretty big, like those overbets that you were talking about, with a little bit wider range than most players. Okay. Or maybe not a wider range, but just he does do that kind of overbet a lot early in the game.
Okay. So it's like he's trying to get extra value early on to make up for the fact that, like, the antes are really small? Yeah. Okay. Can be an effective strategy against people that don't know what they're doing. Great for pub games. In a game like this where everybody is at like 150 games plus, lots of 1800, 1900 MMRs, maybe not so much with the overbetting early on. Hellions, first to act. Gotta love it. So
that's the only thing. I think Seva is like really strong in terms of just betting and playing good cards and folding out, worse cards. So Seva's kind of, I think, a tighter player like Goldie. Yeah. Reach is a bit more. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of reads on Reach. I think I just try and play like as Reach is playing pretty balanced. But
Reach is fairly balanced. I haven't played with him in a while. I feel like he becomes a little more straightforward as the game goes on, but he mixes it up early. I might be wrong on that.
I think that's what you're supposed to do, though. I think that in my idea of the game, that's how it should work.
There's some sit and go theory that says, like, basically don't gamble early. Like, if you have the nuts, play it for value, but, like, don't draw, don't bluff, don't just play really straightforward really early on until the antes get higher, so that you're winning more significant pots when you need to later, and you can kind of disguise your play style and switch gears when it comes time to. But referencing, what you're saying about GTO and reads and whatnot, if you're trying to play a GTO style, and again, this is referencing like Hold'em specifically. This is, I don't know how much this necessarily applies to Battlepoker. We'd have to think about it. But Doug Polk, great heads-up specialist, really skilled no-limit player, great player. He has said before, as far as reads go for him, he plays GTO, period, point blank. If it is a very close situation, like a really close decision, and he has a read, he will go with the read. But if the read says one thing and GTO says another, he plays GTO.
Yeah, I admire that quite a bit. So I've been trying to think of how to apply that in the game. But yeah, I know you've said that you don't really think that makes sense, I think, but I'm not sure.
Part of the problem I have with applying GTO to Battlepoker is that, say when you're playing GTO and Hold'em, you get a hand like 9-7 offsuit, like late position, right? There's some value there. It's probably playable. Like, I don't study GTO. I don't know the pre-flop charts for GTO, but I would feel like 9-7 offsuit in late position, there's probably some percentage of the time that you play it according to GTO, right?
What if you get folded to, or?
Yeah. Yeah. But objectively, 9-7 offsuit is a pretty shitty hand. Let's turn that around into Battlepoker terms. Let's say you get dealt like 12 Vikings, right? That's kind of a shitty hand. There's no chance, like 9-7 offsuit has, of the flop coming like 6-8-10 and you have a monster. Or like 9-9-7 and you have a monster. If you just have 12 Vikings, you're just hoping to get something that's going to blow your opponent out of the water, or something that's going to suddenly make those Vikings, like, inconsequential. Like, you're just going to have something so strong that the Vikings don't even play anymore. That's why I have trouble playing GTO, because it's really hard to have just a kind of objectively not good hand and find a way to get value out of it outside of just a raw bluff.
Yeah. Well, so what I think about that is you're assuming things about how GTO plays out in battle poker that aren't necessarily true. Like what you're saying there actually means that GTO doesn't include those same types of hands that you would see in the limit.
Right.
So I think you have a good point, but it means that you're actually just narrowing down what the GTO looks like rather than saying it doesn't work.
I guess that makes sense. Like, maybe GTO in battle poker just looks very different than GTO in Hold'em.
But again, no one really knows what it is, so...
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to have so much math and, like, millions of simulations. Like, there's no way we can ever get to GTO with battle poker. We can try. We can posit and theorize and come up with all sorts of stuff, but...
Yeah, the main way I just think about it is, like... And this is really nothing to do with GTO, because I haven't done any work on this in the actual math, of course, but I just try and play my position and...
Oh, wow, what a hand by Siva.
I just try and play my position and based on, like, the action at the table.
Yeah.
And every hand is actually just a completely new experience. Like, the actual table history doesn't seem to me isn't relevant to me. Like the stack sizes are relevant, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the actual history of, like, the previous hand doesn't actually mean anything in terms of the theory, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, GTO is obviously billed as the unexploitable strategy. Like, it doesn't matter what your opponents do. If you play GTO, you will be a winning player. But GTO is not the most winning strategy, especially with the way that our payouts work with MMR. It's not going to get you that high. It'll probably get you like 1800, 1850, maybe 1900. But I think between, like, the way that counters work in this game and the way that information works in this game, I think that between position and exploitative strategies, that's what you need to really climb up into, like, the 2000s.
So what would you say is, like, an exploitative play that isn't GTO?
Kind of what we were talking about in the Raven hand. Knowing your opponent's tendencies with certain betting patterns. Like, again, we talked about Pokemon making that overbet with the second card. It very well could have meant that he got the battle cruisers on the second card and overbet to compensate for the fact that he didn't build a pot on the first card. With that knowledge, we were able to go, like, yeah, he's probably got an S-tier hand. We can play the Ravens to a raise. That also probably means we could have played, like, Vikings, like a big count of Vikings, the same way in that situation. Because we knew that 2 out of the 3 times, if we didn't have the Ravens, he was going to have battle cruisers or carriers. We still win in that situation, right? Versus...
Maybe, but I was thinking, again, the High Templar and Ghosts are also possible for him to have those.
It's possible. And again, this is more of, like, the... this would be, like, if we have Vikings instead of the Ravens. Like, if the Ravens were still on
Vikings,
the board, right?
I don't even know. I probably wouldn't make that call.
It would depend a lot more on the second card, I feel like. There are definitely some combinations that beat Ravens.
The action was on the second card.
Yes. Yeah. We'd have to go back and revisit, like, certain hand combinations and be like, what would we play in this? What would we play in this? Like, I'm trying to think of, like, I don't know. I've had a weird day. My brain's not entirely working right now. But there are definitely some, like, Raven plus second card combinations where I would say you could totally play that even if you read your opponent for High Templar Ghost. Now,
right.
in the converse, the opposite way, there are definitely some players that don't realize how good High Templar and Ghosts are. They're not going to play High Templar and Ghosts like that. Those are also the same players that are probably new, 1600 MMR, also probably aren't aware that Ravens aren't that great yet. So you could, if you have a read on somebody that's new to the game, hasn't really played a whole lot yet, 5 games in, 16, 15 MMR or whatever, you could kind of pigeonhole them and say at the same time that if they're betting that big, that read probably means like Battlecruiser Carrier, maybe Ultralisk, maybe I don't know, what's some other like power units that are like in ladder. Thor probably maybe in that range. Siege Tank probably in that range. Stuff that like people are like, oh my god, this unit's so good in 1v1, and then you take it away from 1v1 and look at it in the context of battle poker, and it's not as good.
Okay, so using against like newer players,
you can definitely change your calling and raising ranges against like players that you have pigeonholed as newer, not really knowing ranges, not really knowing what's effective in battle poker. You can play totally differently against them versus a seasoned 1800, 1850, 1900 player. They're going to have totally different ranges, totally different respect for different units, totally different reads on different combinations of units. They're going to play them in an entirely different way. If you figure that out, you can 100% counter them.
So should you assume like new players are gonna be like that, or should you just wait and see like maybe are they raising like every hand, or are they like if you see a showdown with like a weird hand that they probably shouldn't have bet with, like then do you make those judgments, or you just by default assume that the newer players you can exploit in that way?
By default, I try to exploit players in that way until they give me a reason to otherwise. Now, that does not mean that I call a first hand all in with a slightly above average hand. Again, the MMR payouts don't work the same way as like a traditional poker sit and go, where everything is really top heavy and it makes sense to play for like big chip stacks and set yourself up for a top 3 position, and then play for the win from there. It doesn't make sense the way that you ladder up in MMR. However, I will if they like overbet the pot a little bit, if they make weird check raises, if they make like really weird min bets, I will totally call them down with a much wider range. A, because I think I'm a decent percentage of the time. B, because I do want to get that information and be able to pigeonhole them into a certain class of player that much faster and take their chips before anybody else at the table can.
Right.
Like, when you see a soft spot like that at the table, somebody that's really not that good, it honestly becomes kind of a race. You want to be the one to get the free chips. You don't want to let your more skilled opponent get those chips and use them as a weapon against you. Let's stop for a second and talk here. 16 Oracles, third to act, Terran 2-2 on the board. What's your play here? Like, we haven't seen what you do yet in this position, but like, how do you feel about this hand?
Oh, I'd check here.
You check here. I would say checking like 90% of the time is great. You are in early position. Stacks are getting a little bit shorter. You still have pretty good chip stack. I think a raise like 10-15% of the time is fine. You're going to catch some people fucking around with DT sometimes, which is great. You have good anti-ground DPS. You still have a second card to draw. Building a pot's not the worst idea. If you do raise, I think only to 12 is the way to go.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, oracles, I mean they do only target ground, but which makes them like less of a target sometimes, but they actually get targeted a lot cuz they're an energy
right
unit.
It also helps sometimes, like say you get let's go something different this time. Say you get like stalkers to go with your oracles. And you end up playing one-on-one against like banshees. Not even DTs, but now the stalkers aren't going to have to take 15 seconds of just straight up DPS before they can fire back. So there's some fringe cases where that's going to help out a little bit, Mothership. You're going to reveal everything under the Mothership and cancel that out. Now, of course, 7 Hellions, we're done with the hand, but...
No, but against... No. Yeah, I think I haven't been playing oracles a lot as much as I should. But yeah, I think that time it wasn't bad to check.
Yeah. Like I said, like checking should definitely be your majority play there, but every once in a while mixing it up, not a bad idea, especially with something that has as much value as oracles do.
But see, now everyone's folded,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only 4.
I would love to see a call here, only just to see what Abel is raising with.
Yeah. I think there's a good chance, considering everyone folded, that I can win. I think I do make a call.
Nice. Oh, hell yeah, and you're good. See, that's the kind of hand that just like somebody new, like somebody with like Abel with 6 games played, 16, 18 MMR, Zergling Roach. That's a classic combination in ladder. Does pretty well, pretty cheap, lots of units. Let's fucking do it. In the context of Battlepoker, not so good. Back off. So now we have that information on Abel. Maybe not the best at figuring out the value of certain hands. Probably going to overplay some stuff in the future. We can take that into consideration, next time we play. It does suck that he has position on us. We'd rather it be the other way around so that when he raises, we can isolate raise, but it's okay.
Yeah. The only reason I called was because I was closing the action. It was so cheap.
Right. No, that was 100% great play. I love the call there. If he's just playing like purely random cards, which we know he's not, but the math works out that if he's playing purely random cards, it is almost a coin flip that he has nothing but ground units. I think it's like a 55% chance across 2 cards to have 1 air unit, at least 1 air unit. So, yeah, I mean, just for the straight up odds you were getting, that was worth a call, and then for the information on top of that, 100%. Great play. Love it. And now we're back to this hand where we have 3 Widow Mines, and yeah, we're gonna pay attention to this hand and see what Havoc was.
So maybe Havoc saw that Abel did that, and now
it is entirely possible. Yeah, let's see what Havoc played this with.
If we do see it, no.
Havoc, yeah, had the hand.
It's
a
real hand as well.
That is definitely a real hand.
High Templar is not necessarily the most fake hand, but.
I personally kind of am starting to feel like High Templars are a little bit overvalued in the community. They obviously still shut down spellcasters, fucking great. They shut down a lot of like mass units, fucking great. But a lot of like the stronger units that people like to play, the ones that come in like 16 max, 12 max, 10 max count, High Templars don't do great against them. And a lot of people like to overplay them and be like, oh, hell yeah, I'll fucking fuck up some, like, Stalkers and, like, some Corruptors. And, like, they don't do that great,
Yeah.
At least on their own. Like, with support, they're fine, but...
Yeah, I don't usually play them if there's a potential for, like, a multi-way pot.
Mm-hmm. Which, honestly, I kind of feel like any spellcaster at this point shouldn't be played in a multi-way pot. Spellcasters, like, I'm trying to think of an exception. Like, Infestor, Disruptor, High Templar.
Even if it's really 3-way only, but I don't know.
I mean, like, even then, like, I could see something like... Like, I wouldn't play Infestors 3-way. I wouldn't play Ghost 3-way. High Templar I could see getting away with 3-way. Because when you have a higher count with High Templar, they cover more area, so they can do more DPS at a time. Versus like Ghosts, where it's like you're just going to waste snipes. Or like Infestors, like if you're up against 8 Battlecruisers, you have 25 Infestors, 8 of those Infestors are going to neural the Battlecruisers, the other 17 are going to sit around and wait their turn. Like, they're not going to do shit, you know? Goofman chopping up with the DTs. Much needed chop, keeping him alive.
Now it's time to no.
7 Colossi, 2-2 on the board. We're in last position. I fucking hate Colossi. Talked about this all the time. If you're going to play him, last position with upgrades is the time to play him. And you're only facing him in raise. I am not going to hate a call here if you make it. I'm not going to hate it.
Now's the time to 3-bet.
I'm
joking.
The problem with 3-betting here is that Colossi specifically are so vulnerable. If you get called, you're probably fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a joke, but I like to think about that sometimes.
Right.
Probably to my detriment. Because sometimes I actually do 3-bet with like really bad hands.
Which you should do on occasion. Like, that's not a bad idea. 3-betting on occasion with a bad hand. You have to balance your range sometimes. And to balance your range by doing that, you have to show it down on rare occasion, you know?
It's actually, it's kind of, I feel like I try to think of it like that, but it's actually so unbalanced because like I don't 3-bet with good hands usually. Except Ghost and High Templar I probably do, but...
And I mean, there is still a counterpoint to that as well. If your opponents aren't paying attention to what you do, if they aren't adjusting for the way that you play, then fuck it. Don't ever 3-bet with shitty cards. Nobody gives a shit. It's not going to change anybody's way that they play against you.
Yeah,
you're throwing money away.
Folded.
Yeah,
no
like
one's ever folded to those things. Like if people raise, they're probably calling down mostly.
Yeah,
most of the time. That was so silly, that one game. I think you were you were watching. It was like final table, right?
Mm-hmm.
Siva, no, I actually opened with 11 Brewlords in like second position, which makes no sense. Siva's in third position with a re-raise, right? And then I do a 4-bet. That's what actually happened. That was so silly.
And I mean, like, it's a balancing act, and it's something that you always have to be paying attention to who you're playing against at the table. Like, I'll be the first one to admit, I've talked about this a little bit in voice chat, I'm just going to throw it out there. I straight up fuck with people that I play with all the time. I will pick a random-ass hand and just be like, nope, fuck you. I'm 3-betting you this hand, I don't have shit, I just want to see what you're going to do. And I have been taking down so many pots from regulars that are just not used to being 3-bet. And they're like, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
And the thing is that you have to do it on the second card.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I see.
This is, again, like, just my experience, my personal read. But people doing it on the first card aren't going to release. They tend to do it with a hand that they like. On the second card, when they brick out, they are so much more likely to go ahead and fold and let it go.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to make that play, it's kind of like the stop and go. Like, honestly, especially if you're in first position, or like your first act after the second card. What do you think here? 14 Phoenix. Latest position. I would probably raise this about 1 out of 3 times. I think your count's a little low for an 8-handed table, even in late position. You did at least fold out the 2 people after you, so now you bought last position, which is great. You don't have upgrades. I mean, it's at least Terran 1/1, so you're not horribly worried. But,
yeah,
you know, you have some great second card synergy. You just don't have a great count right now. Taking it down, though, risking 16 to win 80? Hell yeah. Middle position, 10 Archons. Oh, no, don't tell me that.
No, you don't lose, but...
Okay.
I lose the hand eventually.
Okay, yeah. Ante's at 8. We're chilling at a little over 20 bets, like 23, 24 bets. I can definitely see a call here right now. Only 8 more. You have 10 Great Archons. We're running up against Zerg 3-3, which I've talked about this in some videos in the past. Zerg upgrades are less threatening than Terran and Protoss. So we're 3-handed at the second card, and we're in second to act. And let's see if it calls. Okay, so we're three-handed. Pokemon's first. We bricked hard. What's your reasoning for putting the Colossi in front?
Well, because if it's multi-way, the Archons are the unit that I want to stay alive to kill everything.
Okay. That makes sense. We should definitely still revisit with Skelly about like the taking 5 seconds to switch cards before combat starts.
Like, if Havoc checks, like, wouldn't it just instantly start? I don't know.
If Havoc checks, it would instantly start. Yeah.
So now we're for sure in a multi-way because I just
Yeah, and for only 8 more, like you're getting almost 10-1. Like you have to call that. 10 Archons definitely playable. Unfortunately, the ghosts happen.
So I don't
think
it's bad to do what I did in that hand.
I think you played that fine. It's just bad luck. Like that's ghost showed up. It is what it is.
That happened, yeah.
You know. All right, this will be an interesting spot. Fourth to act. 3 battle cruisers, raise in front, no upgrades. What's your play? Well, Zerg 2-2, but
I fold, I guess.
I have been trying to play like, 3 and 4 count capital ships a little bit more. You can't obviously play them solo. Like, if you have 8 BCs, that's your hand. If you draw something good after that, that's even better. But like, you could draw 12 Hellions and be like, fuck you, I have 8 BCs, I'm probably still playing. 3 or 4 need some support, but they're strong in DPS. In particular with BCs, you have Yamato, so you can take out some high-value targets right out the gate. They're tanky, they're flying, you have a lot of good things going for you. I don't think folding right out the gate is necessarily the play.
How about the position and the...
You do have to worry about the position. Like...
Cause I was pretty early and someone in front of me raised, so...
Pokemon raised in front of you. In middle position, I don't hate a fold. I would have liked to see a call more often than a fold, but not by much. Like 60-40 maybe?
How about this Pokemon's raise size? What does that...
To 24? You have enough chips to not terribly worry about it. I think you would have been committing like a little over 10% of your stack for effectively a draw, which...
It's assuming that no one bets on the second round, which Reach actually bet to 64.
Right, and that also assumes that you're not getting like re-raised on the first card. Like I said, I would have liked to see a call a little more often than a fold, but not by much.
Yeah, I think... Because sometimes we talk about pot odds, but to me it just seems weird because I think you have to factor in the likelihood of like future raises and the likelihood of you actually folding to a future raise, because that's like you're losing every single time that ever happens.
Mm-hmm.
So like the pot odds are not as what they look like necessarily.
It's kind of funny. That's called implied odds, and I spent like 10 minutes in the video that I was recording before this one talking about implied odds. It's basically the idea of like, pot odds are directly looking at what you're facing right now in the pot versus what you're facing right now in the bet. Implied odds is also factoring in what you can get paid off when you hit your card and your opponent calls your bet. That's when like you start playing based off of like stack size. Like if you're about to make a slightly unprofitable call where like just justifiably like that call is slightly unprofitable, but your opponent has like 5 times the pot size behind, you make that play because when you get paid off so much more. Like that stack size is huge. It makes it worthwhile. If they have like a third of the pot left, you don't fucking make that play because it's not worth your time.
Is it? Yeah. What? So would you say like, what should I fold to like a pretty big raise if my second card was kind of a brick in that spot?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, but it's still it's still like that. Maybe people just check, or maybe I get a good second card.
Mm-hmm. And again, some percentage of the time when you brick and it checks you, you should probably bluff at it. And like I said before, according to my reads, a lot of the times the current player base will fold on that second card if they brick. Just because you brick doesn't mean you have to give up the pot.
Mm-hmm.
All in by Goofman, Havoc calls. Not a big all-in by Goofman. He's not getting a lot of fold equity here. Havoc definitely has the chips to just try to pick off Goofman here. I think it's safe to say we're going to fold the 4 Siege Tanks. Reach fucking around and finding out. See if Havoc wants to stick around here.
I always find that all-in spots like this interesting because, like, at Reach, maybe it just has a really bad card, but if everyone else folds, you only lose, the all-in cost, and you take everyone else's money beyond that. But
so
in this case,
let's actually just take a second. Right? Let's take a second to talk about this situation. Like, I know you're not in it, but like, this is a great situation. Goof is basically forced all in here. Like, he only has 40 chips left. Antes are at 12. If he folds himself down, if he folds his hand, he's first to ag next hand with 28 chips, 29 chips, with 27. I can't fucking math. Which is horrible. Like, even if he gets called 7 ways and wins the pot with 29 chips, he's barely in first place. I mean, yeah, first place, but not by a whole lot. And that's if he beats 7 other people at Showdown. What's probably going to happen is that 1 or 2 people call him. He's going to get beat by a better hand. He's out of the game. With him all winning this many chips, he at least has some fold equity. Some people are going to fold. Havoc realizes what's going on. He's second in chips, has plenty of a chip stack, can call a wider range because Goof should be raising most of his hands here. So it doesn't take as strong of a hand for Havoc to make this call. Now we have Reach. Reach knows what Goofman is doing with the all-in, trying to get fold equity. Reach knows what Havoc is doing. He doesn't need as strong of a hand to call because Goofman is going all in with a lot of shit. Reach is putting pressure on the rest of the table, saying, I'm going to re-raise. Fuck you guys. Get out of my way. I want to be one-on-one with Goofman and take his chips. So Havoc, unless he has a super strong hand here because of Reach's raise, should fold the vast majority of his hands here.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it's a great bluff spot, but...
Well, we call it a squeeze. Which is basically what Reach is doing. Like, Reach is squeezing. He's putting pressure on Goofman and Havoc, basically saying, like, I know what you two are doing. I don't think you guys have a hand. I'm going to put you to the test. Siva, Pokemon, Goldie, Zonk, you guys already were like, fuck this, I'm out. So it's literally just coming down to Havoc having to make the decision. Do I have a strong enough hand to go 3 ways here and make that additional call? Or should I just let these chips go and fuck it, Reach can take out Goofman? This is a really strong play from Reach. Like, I cannot underline that enough. Reach is definitely making the best of his position here. He could honestly do this with any card and probably be pretty profitable here.
So like, I'm... All right, I mean, you can keep talking, sorry.
No, that's about the end of what I have. What you got?
I was thinking, like... I do like it, but I feel like Reach's position is, like... I don't know. What if someone else has a hand behind, right? Then what's the like you're in trouble with a pretty weak hand, right?
You are, like, but you're not. Like,
I would, if I was, let's say I had a decent hand and I was but Havoc called in, everyone else folded, then I would want to maybe raise because I knew that I was just against Havoc and Goof.
Right.
Wouldn't it? I feel like it'd be better there, but I'm not sure.
I mean, it's always better to have a good hand in case you get called. But part of poker is the fact that, like, you have to take down pots that don't belong to you, or you're just going to blind out and you're at the mercy of the cards. When you have good cards, you're going to win. When you have bad cards, you're going to lose. Problem with that is that everybody has good cards, everybody has bad cards. You're not going to climb MMR over long periods of time just playing that style. You have to look for spots like this where you can make those reads on your opponents, look at the chips in the pot, look at what you have available to you, and make a play to take those chips.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. What I'm asking is, do you prefer like a raise like this if Reach is in that position, or if Reach is in my position and everyone actually folded past Havoc to Reach?
It would be way better to make that play in your position. However, it is totally fine in Reach's position. The one thing I want to critique about Reach's play here is that he should have gone all in. He does not have that many chips behind. 57 and he raised 36, so he already committed a third of his chip stack to this play. The problem is that if Havoc goes level on level on level on level of thinking, like, I know you did this, so I do this. You know that I did this because you did this, so you're going to do this, and, that kind of thinking. Havoc absolutely has a play here to just shove over the top of Reach and be like, I don't think you have a good hand here. You're just squeezing. I'm going to fuck you up. And unless Reach has the nuts, he has to fold. If Reach had gone all in this position, Havoc doesn't have a play.
Well, Reach doesn't even have to fold then because he knows Havoc is just squeezing, because you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Reach could still call with marginal depending on how.
If Reach has a big hand, the way he played it is probably better because it would incentivize the shove over the top with Havoc. But that also assumes Havoc is playing at that level, that he's going to shove over the top as a bluff some of the time. It's also playing into the fact that we don't have a read on Havoc and that his call doesn't necessarily mean that he is strong. We're looking at Havoc's position from the fact that he's a pretty regular player. He almost has 500 games. He has a decent MMR. I'm going to assume that he has some form of poker knowledge. He's going to identify the squeeze position. Or, I'm sorry, not the squeeze position. He's going to realize the position that Goofman is in, making that shove with a large number of hands. Havoc is going to try to take advantage of that. Like, this is a domino effect, how each of these plays play into each other. None of this happens if Goofman doesn't go all in. Havoc never calls if Goofman is not the one to go all in. Like, if Zunk, if you raise in first position and Havoc doesn't have a great hand, he just gets out of the way, I think. Reach doesn't make the raise unless he has a crazy hand, or unless Havoc makes a call realizing that Goofman is weak. Like, it all of these plays, like, all play into each other. And this is why it's so important to pay attention to what's going on the table and not just play like, oh, I have Ravens. I'm not going to pay attention to the hand until like it comes back around to me, and then I'm just going to move the slider up some and bet. Like, your plan for the hand has to change based on what's going on at the table.
Yes.
All right, we've spent a lot of time talking about this one hand. Let's see how it plays out. Havoc calls. Okay. Second cards. Let's see what Reach does. If Reach was bluffing, he can't even really go all in here. You can't barrel this. I think he has a good hand. He had so few chips behind, he's not going to have fold equity with Havoc. Let's see what we got. Havoc had Thor Baneling. Okay, Reach was overplaying some ghosts. Goof was all in with Queen Infest. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable across the board, I would say. I will say I don't like Reach's. Well, no, actually I do. That should have gotten some folds there. I think that was pretty reasonably played all the way across, except for Reach. I think Reach should have gone all in on the first card. On the first card, instead of just the 75 raise.
Okay.
All right, down to five-handed. Last position, Zerg 1-1, 11 mutas. I'm going to pause here just for a second. We are definitely at a chip stack where we're playing danger mode poker. We have 10 bets left. So, like, we have less than 10 hands before we're going to be forced all in. So this cuts down on a lot of our implied odds. We don't have enough chips to play against people for, like, big drawing hands, big payoffs, shit like that. We have to play kind of straightforward poker, value bet a lot of our good hands, fold a lot of our bad hands, and look for position situations where we can steal the pot. Obviously, this is great right here.
I should go all in right now.
Don't go all in. You're betting 2x the pot. But a raise to like 36-48 here, even with only the 11 mutalisks, not a bad play. Why is this? You're only up against 4 other people. It's a lot easier to bluff 4 people than it is 7. So you're going to get more folds, right? 11 mutas, not the best, but with support, it's playable. You have a little DPS, you have a flying unit, you have Zerg 1-1. 2-2 mutas if you draw like Ultras, Infestors, Corruptors, something like that. A little bit more useful. So it's almost like a semi-bluff. You have outs, you have a little bit of value, you also might just take the pot down. Not a bad situation, just throw out a bet and see what happens.
I'm not sure if I do. I'm thinking about no.
Okay. Yeah, and with only 7 High Templars, 5 players in the pot, I would probably not take the shot at this on the second barrel, on the second card. Siva raises, so we're done with the hand. I do believe, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that would be good though. I just think like I'd be obviously if it doesn't work I'd be in an even worse spot, but that's not something you can really justify not playing stuff for.
And like in particular, like even not even looking at the count, looking at like the fact that you had High Templar and Muta, you have to understand that when you play these two cards together, a very large amount of the time you're gonna storm your Mutalist.
Oh no, I wasn't talking about now. I was talking about the 11 Mutalist raise when everyone when everyone checked to me, because that's like the actual spot that is still like marginally I could have raised there, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just a note to think about. Like you can't just be like, oh hey, Mutas are good DPS, High Templar are good DPS. Let's go all in. Like you got to think about how the two units interact. It's kind of like a DT High Templar, same idea. Like your High Templar are just going to storm your own DTs and kill them. 16 Vikings, next to last to act. Zerg 2/2. This is another spot where I'd like to see a small raise. The only problem with that small raise is that our chip leader is directly to our left. So he's going to get chances to isolate raise. He's going to get chances to basically just play perfectly off of what we do. Because he's got so many chips he can fuck around and find out.
Yeah. So does that change it though? Like, or that just makes it slightly worse to do it? Like, it's still good to raise a little bit there, right?
It is still fine to raise a little bit because Siva, Pokemon, Goldie up here are all fairly short stacked, so they are not going to be able to commit chips without a really strong hand. As long as you get Havoc out of the pot, you're fine. You can play against the rest of them very aggressively. Havoc has the chip stack to absorb a couple of blows, so he may be looking to call you specifically just to fuck you up and get you off the table.
So I should have played more aggressive there, maybe.
I think the min raise was fine. I think that hand played the way it is fine. What you have to look out for is when you're playing like early to middle position, and you have the chip leader still directly to your left in late position. Like he's going to take advantage of that position and his chip stack and call so many of your raises, and just fuck with you on the second card. You check to him, he bets. Did you hit? Probably not. Can't call, right? You're short stacked. You can't just like be like, oh, I want to see what you have and look you up. You don't have the chips to survive that anymore. You can't pay for that information. You have to be very confident when you call.
Yeah.
And you'd be better with my camera
I was thinking
control
against Pokemon though. Like once Pokemon called, we got our second cards. Pokemon checks to me. Should I have gone all in there or?
Some amount of the time, yes. Like, you should absolutely pick some times there just to be like, I don't care what my cards are, I'm bluffing. You can make it a regular size raise. You can make it an all-in raise. The all-in raise is definitely going to have more fold equity, but it goes without saying, when you fuck up, you're out. If you make a smaller raise, you still have a little bit of a backup.
I was talking about after the second card.
Right, so after the second card, yeah.
Oh, so I could have done a small raise as well.
You could have.
No, I don't think a small raise makes any sense on the second card.
The only reason a small raise makes sense is if Pokemon is paying attention to us and he thinks that we're trying to milk him out of just a couple extra bets on a really strong hand. Like, I would only make that small bet play against somebody that is paying attention to me.
No, but that's like such a bad. I don't think that's a good play, even if you know they're milking you.
He's going to call a lot of the time. You're going to lose a lot of the time when he calls, but you're not risking that much for it. And the size of the pot is enough to pay you off so that when he does fold, it should make it worthwhile. It's one of those situations where, like, over 50% of the time, you're probably going to lose that hand. But when you win it, the few times you do, it sets you up in a better position to make a run for, like, third or second versus going out in fifth. So purely from an MMR perspective, going up a little under half the time, 2/3 or second, is going to be a bigger benefit than the good amount of the time that you lose a fifth.
Yeah.
This is good.
What
this
do
is
you
a good
think
play.
about this? Okay, but
I am totally
infestors
okay with
aren't
this.
good.
Infestors are not good, but I keep fucking up the camera. When you're this short on chips, we're not always looking at your value, like the value of your hand. This is more of a bluff than anything. The only, 59, yeah.
Is it? Yeah, I don't know. I'm in the first position too.
16 would leave you at 43.
Because I'm thinking I'm gonna have to call like other people's raise. I don't know. If I'm in late, like if I get folded to in late, obviously I go all in next time.
The problem is that if you
Can I
fold this
wait for
hand,
that?
you have so few chips the next hand. You're really not going to have fold equity. You're praying to win like a 2 or 3-way pot if you go all in next hand. I think you're better off all inning here. You have more chips, so you have more fold equity. You're making a bigger raise, more people are going to fold more often. B, infestors, shitty, but they're fine with support, and especially against hands like Battlecruiser Carrier that we talk about all the time, they're a great counter. They're not going to win the hand a lot unless you bink like Vikings, Corruptors, Phoenix, something like that against those Battlecruiser Corruptors, but they do force a tie, which buys you more time. The main thing you're looking for, though, is that the infestors are going to be a backup if you get called. Your purpose with this bet is to fold everybody out and double your chip stack. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks that you have to do it from first position because shit like this is going to happen. Pokemon's going to call and you have no information on what his hand is, so maybe he got dealt 25 Ravens. Sucks, you know? Oh, now you have Goldie in there, too.
Should be in the back or no?
Corruptors should be in front, I think.
Okay.
Corruptors are not your win condition. They are not your draw condition. Infestors are. You want to keep them safe and alive.
Right.
Oh, still got some mana left on those Ravens, you and your old. And you're taking over a couple battle cruisers. That's what you're looking for. You're literally just looking to buy time. You want to buy time.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you can split a 3-way pot and actually make some profit. That's not bad. Still got some mana. No fungals. No fungals. Almost a neural parasite. Not going to be worth it. 6, 5. 5, 3, 2, 1. No.
GG.
GG. I still think that was the right play. And honestly, I make that play.
Wait, it wasn't GG though, apparently.
Oh, you got 9 chips. We're still in it. Here comes the comeback. 34 Reaper's gonna do it. KD charge.
Why did that happen again? Was Goldie under me? I guess.
Goldie was under you and she
Goldie
won.
was
So
under
you
me.
got a little bit of a
Chips.
refund. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least you got Terran 3/3 with the Reapers. That's. I mean, if you're gonna have Reapers, you have decent count. You have Terran 3/3. Let's see. Reapers do respond really well to upgrades.
What should I be playing? Should I be raising here? Just kidding. I have no choice. But okay, but I could put the class in front of the Reapers. I don't know.
I would keep the Reapers in back.
Yeah, I think I did this wrong. Yeah.
You want those KD8 charges to go off as quickly as possible to disrupt the enemy's front lines. You want to pick off some of their tanks and get them closer to you so you can target them down, and you want to hopefully disrupt some DPS that comes to the front line and like knock them back so they're not hitting you as often. But I mean, this is going to be a crazy 5-way unless somebody raises. Like, anything could happen. And I think in particular, like, Reapers do better with the KD8 charge in those chaotic pots.
Wait, so you said Reapers in back though, right?
No, I said Reapers in front.
Oh, okay.
You want the KD8 charges from the Reapers to go down as quickly as possible. You want them to fuck up the front lines.
Yeah.
Those Colossi might actually do it.
The Immortals.
Oh, the Immortals. Yeah, I see them now. Damn. Immortal good unit.
Just goes to show I should have raised my Ravens in the first hand I played.
You'd still have like another 25 chips left. We could do this. Alright. Well, I'll leave this up to you. Do you want to keep looking from somebody else's perspective, or do you just want to call this one?
I think I'll call this one for now. I gotta run in a couple minutes. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, dude, this has been fun. I hope it's maybe helped you, helped like other people that maybe watch this. I don't know. That's what I'm going for.
But yeah, no, it's fun to just talk about the game too. So
Hell yeah.
yeah.
So anytime you want to do this again, hit me up. And that goes for anybody watching, anybody on the Discord. If you want to go over a game, let's talk about some strategy. Let's talk about some options. Drop me the replay in Discord. I'll download it, and we'll sit through it together like this.
All right, great. Thanks so much,
All right.
Bot, for putting this together.
All right,
And,
man.
putting all the community, the work into the community. You're doing a lot.
Hey, man, that's what I'm here for. All right. Well, until next time, y'all take care. See ya.